Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley, and today I took off from work. I went to spend some time with family, and I had a friend that passed away. So I think it's fair to say I'm in a nostalgic, sad mood. As I'm driving home at late in the evening, got a couple hour drive, I get a phone call, and I try to answer my phone, right, because I don't know when someone's in an emergency situation, and I can't tell you, I got to start saving the calls, so when I retire, you guys have a wonderful group of stories to listen to. So gentleman just calls me and says, I have a question. And again, I'm feeling down. I said, hey, why don't you just call me tomorrow? And he's like, please, it's urgent. I don't know, he's talking about fishing. And I'm like, what? Like, in my mind, I'm going, brother, you're calling me at 9:30 at night to ask a fishing question? I don't say it, but I just go, brother, why don't you just call me tomorrow? And I'll answer, man, come on, it's really important. Okay, like I'm driving, right? So I'm not charging for a consultation. For all those that think that attorneys are all about the money. It's nice to make money like every job, but it's not about all about the money. If it was, I wouldn't do what I'd be doing. I'd be selling jets. Anyway, so the guy says, listen, if there's a public fishing lake or whatever, and it's closed, will I get in trouble for going in? And he started to ask me about trespassing. And I go, yes, you will get arrested. You might get a notice to appear, or they may take you in. And then he says, what if I'm armed as well? Come on, brother. Are you, how about you just don't do it? How about you just... It's illegal. There's a sign that says no trespassing. It says the park's closed after hours, right? You know that it's wrong. And he goes, okay. He says something to the effect, he goes, are you serious? Are you sure I'll get arrested? And now the smart ass comes out of me, because again, I'm down and I'm a little blue. And I'm like, no, I'm just saying it, jackass, to say it, because I like to say things that are opposite of what I believe. So he goes, oh, okay, fair enough. He goes, well, I appreciate it, but we're probably going to go. We're going to sneak in anyway. And I said, okay, well, tomorrow when you call me, the fee will be $5,000, just so you know up front. He's like, fair, that's fair. And I said, now I can't even help it, because I'm talking to a clown. I'm not even talking to a person where I can attach, where empathy, I sympathize with them. Like, I can't empathize, I can't sympathize, because they called to ask a question. They have enough thought, right, to ask the question beforehand. You give them the answer. You say, don't do it, it's not worth it. Come back tomorrow and fish, right? Fish come and go, right? Just like everything else. Fish come and go. It's a weird thing to say, right? But you can fish tomorrow when it's legal, and you can go into the park or whatever. And we're just going to sneak in. And then I said, well, respectfully, if it wasn't for people that made just dumb choices, I wouldn't have a job. That's the reality, right? So I don't wish, when people call me and I give my time for free and I'm not charging anything, and you're calling me at 9:30 for stupidity, and then I give you the answer, well, even though you just told us the law, we're going to do it anyway. Good luck, brother. Good luck. That's the check that I don't feel bad for. That's the check that there's no discount on that. Like, if that guy legitimately calls me anytime in the next week and says, hey, I called you the other night. Man, I should have listened to you. Could you do better on the price? No. Hell to the no. No. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm driving home. I'm thinking about, the struggles that everyone has, right? That our population has, from addiction to sickness to bad choices. And it really, it puts me in a somber mood. And you're probably wondering, why are you videotaping the road? Well, what do you want, an audio? You're not going to be able to see me in the dark, and I'm not going to put a light on myself as I'm driving down the road. I'm not really looking at the camera for those people that goes, I can't believe an attorney's going to give advice. Yeah, my screen is like, I don't know, it's a 6-inch screen on my camera, and my windshield's about 6 feet. So you guys do the math. For those that want to critique me, I'm not staring at my camera; it's just recording. For the haters, because I do get those. But as I think about the problems I encounter, there's maybe I should make a motivational video where it's situational. So I had someone that called me, and even when I take off of work, I don't take off of work. So I had someone that called me, and their family member was arrested, and they have a violation of probation, and they're a convicted felon, and they had a firearm in the car. And listen, there's a lot of people that go, well, you had a firearm. I get that. But maybe the person lives in a really bad area. Maybe the person's background has seen that people have been robbed or beaten or raped or killed. And they feel that they'd rather violate their probation by having a firearm than to protect themselves. They're more fearful of dying or being harmed than they are of being violated and going to jail or prison. And sometimes I think about that. I had a young man that I represented from Haiti years ago. I was like, hey man, you gotta get rid of this gun. It wasn't a crime. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't giving him advice to squash evidence. I was telling him that, in his situation, what he was dealing with, having a firearm could also, I get it, it's your right, I get it, but some people aren't ready yet. And this young man wasn't emotionally equipped. He didn't have training. He didn't have any kind of background that would help him. Didn't really have, like a father or an uncle or a big brother, to guide him. So I was playing those roles. And I said, hey man, there's no reason for the firearm. I mean, stay away from trouble, learn to run fast, or learn jujitsu, or learn how to fight. And that, I get it, you can't beat a gun, I get that. But every time you pull a firearm, you're at risk of being arrested. Yes, there's the castle doctrine. Yes, there's stand your ground. Yes, there's the self-defense. I get it, guys. But surely you have to admit that there's some people that you go, they're not ready for a firearm yet. Maybe after some training, after some maturity. You have people with mental health issues, right, that have firearms. And my job is not always to protect them just from the system, but it's to protect them from themselves. So I was giving this lecture, and this young man says, I only moved here from Haiti a few years ago. I live in a Haitian neighborhood. I'm not going to say it. This is what he's telling me. And he's like, I've seen my friends killed in front of me, shot, stabbed, hatcheted. And he wasn't exaggerating. And I said, I understand that it happened in your country, but here, you live in, Palm Beach County. He's like, no, that's what I'm talking about. Since I moved here, I've seen those things happen. And I'm going, shit. Like, here's a young man that grew up in a neighborhood that, like, I grew up in. Like, he's in a neighborhood where there's gangs, where there's drugs, where there's robberies, where there's home invasions, where you better duck. Like, it's almost like if you watch the movie, Boys in the Hood, like, you see that car coming slow down the street. Well, unless you're packing, you're not stepping out there. You're ducking and running and hiding, and right. And you see, I get it, it's a movie, but that does happen in real life, right? So, well, what does my pep talk do for that young man, right? How does that young man feel safe? Does he just say, hey, I'm going to blindly follow with this attorney? Hey, he's got a few degrees, and he seems logical, and maybe we share some experiences of how we grew up, but he's not me. He's not Haitian. He's not living this life right now. He's not of my race, right? There's so many connecting factors that, I may not connect with a young man. So is he going to follow, Roger B. Foley? Or is he going to do what he needs to do to take care of himself and his family? So when you have those situations, similar to when I was a big brother, when I was a big brothers, big sisters, it's, you can recommend, you can mentor, you can lead, but not everyone follows, not everyone listens, not everyone attempts. They're living their own circumstances, and you have to account for who are the people around them. If they have a best friend, if they have an uncle, if they have a brother-in-law, if they got whoever's in their life, male or female, that's guiding them, what if those people are not sound? What if those people are not leaders? But they are leaders because they're demonstrating. They have guns, they have firearms, they're selling drugs, they're involved in prostitution, right? They're getting mines, right? Like they're doing those things. How do you, as one voice that's not quite connected, help that person? What are you gonna do? Give them $1 million and they go buy a house? Yeah, but that's like, the poverty that we have. When there's a homeless guy, do you just walk over and hand him $100 bill and hope that he does the right thing with it? What's $100 gonna buy you? Is it gonna buy you shelter? Is it gonna buy you food, clothing, communication, phone, internet? Is it gonna help you to? No, it's, like if someone needs food, you got to teach them to farm, right? You need to teach them to hunt. I deal with these issues, and I think about them to myself, and I don't say them that often. And I guess if you watch my YouTube channel, maybe I say that. I don't know. What's funny, guys? I don't go back and watch my YouTube videos. Most of my YouTube videos, everything is off the cuff, and it's the thoughts that I have. So I'm not editing. I may make a mistake, and someone will sure tell me, hey, you said this, and it's not, you can lead a horse to water. Whatever I said it incorrectly. Like, hey, you know what? I don't get the gold star today. Sorry. But I have good intentions. And keep in mind, even as an attorney, there are mistakes that I can make in a courtroom. They're not big mistakes, but I could have phrased something better, and I go back and I analyze, and I always try to get better. But I prepare my arguments beforehand. And then, of course, when you prepare so many arguments, when you have to do something, in a flash, right? When something comes up that you weren't expecting, it does help you to react quicker, right? if I practice my boxing every day and I'm throwing jabs and I'm throwing right hands and I'm throwing hooks and I'm pivoting and I get hit with something, I'm off balance, my body kind of reacts in autopilot. And that's what happens as a lawyer when you do things. It's not always perfect, but can I avoid the wreck? I can. So, but I know the haters are always going to hate, and that's okay. I'm sure I hate on people too at sometimes. But anyway, all these thoughts of like that young man, or the young man that I say, hey, what can I do? How can I help you? Let me get you some help for treatment for your drug addiction. And they respectfully decline and say thank you for the pep talk, but they ultimately go out and they overdose, and I get the call. Or the young lady that contacts my office and is separated from her parents because she ran off at 17 and now she's 20 years old and she's gotten with the wrong people and she may have been duped, and it went from weed to pills to cocaine to heroin with Dilaudid, and she's selling herself daily, and she's only 20 years old, and she's selling herself to the drug dealer for $10 to get a hit, for crack, for whatever she can get her hands on at 20. Parents can't do anything, right? I mean, maybe they could do a Marchman Act, right? But when someone separates from the family, it's so difficult to unite. There's either bridges burned, right? Because the user has stolen, cheated, lied, done things that, I respectfully as an attorney, I wouldn't know about. Sometimes you reach out to family and say, hey, I was called by your daughter. They said you might be willing to help with their criminal charges. That kind of thing. And I obviously have to ask a client before even a free consultation. If I do a consultation, they say, hey, I can't share everything that they share. I can only share what they allow me to share. And then the family's like upset and distraught, and they're battling between tough love and like hugging and caressing and loving on their child, because they feel like, well, they've already been down this road before. They've already paid for treatment. They've already emptied money out of their savings account. Then there's racial tense. I don't know what term I would say, where when a young man calls my office and says, and he's a black man, and he says, I got attacked by 8 police officers, and I ask him the story, and I cross-examine him, but I'm listening out, and I'm an ear, I'm a shoulder to cry on, so to speak. Trust me, no men are coming to my office and putting their head on my shoulder. It just doesn't happen. But I'm being there. I'm listening, right? I'm giving them my time, because if it's true, it's horrendous. It's disgusting, and someone needs to be their voice, right? And they're coming to me to be their voice. And then you find out that it's all a lie. And the young man hit the officer, the young man grabbed for the firearm, the young man panicked, and there was zero hostility after you watch hours of tape from 8 different body cameras that were all running. But then you have another case with the same department, the same police department, and in that case, the young black man tells me the story about how a firearm was pulled out of him on a traffic stop for having tinted windows, no prior criminal history. And the officer pulls the gun, yanks him out of the car, beats him with the firearm, like hits him in the face, right? Handcuffs him, drags him out into an area of darkness, and this officer and several other officers, proceed to beat my client. Now I have my client's word. I don't have any body cameras. No one's body cameras working. No one, right? All the officers, like, no, that didn't happen. No, that didn't happen. My clients show up immediately out of jail. They're black and blue. They're swollen. Something happened. And through determination, investigation, because you have to believe your client, you find 2 witnesses that say, yeah, I saw it, and I saw it from the very beginning. Get out of the effing car, and with a gun aimed at their face, pulled out of the car, hit with the gun, beat down, handcuffed, beat again while they were handcuffed, dragged out into a dark area, and they heard screams for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And even though you have all that information, the state attorney doesn't listen. The prosecutor assigned to the case doesn't listen. You list the witnesses. You're setting the case for trial. And great, you know what's great, folks, is when you go to trial, you can have that aha moment. But you also risk, years in prison for battery on a law enforcement and resisting with violence. And the next prosecutor doesn't listen to you, and you have everything done, and you take depositions of 16 officers, and you go through 4 or 5 prosecutors, and they all go, yeah, whatever, like, yeah, we'll see you at trial, and they don't care, and you're like, okay. And as an attorney, you have to shine. But what if you don't shine? What if you stumble? What if you say, leading a horse to drink, or you mispronounce it, or whatever, right? What if you don't have a Michael Jordan day and slam dunk that shit? What happens? Your clients go to prison for a really long time. And you get fed up with the system, and you get fed up with prosecutors not listening. It's not all prosecutors, it's just in this scenario. And then you go, you know what? I got to be prepared. All the work I do, all the motions I do, all the trials, everything has prepared me for this case where I have a legitimate person who had tinted windows and was beaten by officers. And they all covered it up. And no one wants to hear, but you know what, damn it, this judge is going to hear it and this jury's going to hear it. And you motivate yourself. It's like you're doing push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups, and you're preparing for war because you know what's on the line. Your client's freedom is on the line. And as you get to the day before the trial, another prosecutor just calls, and you're like you don't even want to explain it again. You've done it. Like, you have your depots. They don't even care. They don't even want the depots. Like, they don't give a shit, right? They don't believe your client. They don't care about the witnesses. And they go, hey, Foley, I just got on this. I'm assigned to trial tomorrow. I've looked at the file. Like, why are you going to trial on this? Like, I don't understand. Like, you're going to lose. I don't know if it's a... And I go, is there any notes in the file? Do you have any of my emails? Do you have anything? No, nothing's noted, nothing's filed. You gotta be kidding. You see the witnesses I listed as discovery witnesses? Yes. And I go, I'm ready for trial tomorrow. Like, you don't even want to do it, but because that risk to your client, you break down and you tell the story for like the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time, because someone's gonna listen, maybe, or they're going to just go, yeah, see you at trial tomorrow. And they go, hey, are you okay with me continuing this? Because if I continue it and I talk to your witnesses and it's true what you're saying, I would never go forward. And it's finally like, there's almost like, God, someone's finally listening to me, right? Someone's listening, like, to my voice, that my voice is, this young man's freedom or incarceration, and finally someone's listening. and they take the next step, and they talk the day of the trial, they talk to my witnesses, and they go, holy shit, I can't believe that no one's done anything. I can't, but like, oh my, and ultimately, the case is reset a week, and the case is dismissed, right? But what happens to those officers? Nothing. And it still bothers me as an attorney years later. Nothing happened to them. They're still working, still doing stuff. Who knows, right? Can you have a really bad day and just, drag a man out into the woods and beat the shit out of him? I can't imagine that. I imagine that it's probably happened to other people. What do you do? Nothing happens. Whose job is it? Who can I call? Lawyers know everything. No, we don't. I don't know who to call. You could call. You could send some emails to the press, right? You can take the depositions and get. Well, what happens? Maybe they call you back. Maybe they don't. Unless you have it on video, it's like, I don't believe. I don't know. People don't even call back. You can send it to the state attorney's office, the corruption unit. Maybe they'll look. Maybe. I mean, do they have an ethical duty to? Yes, but do they have a bunch of other cases, and where does it fit, and how, and what happens? I don't know, right? Then you have clients that go, hey man, I don't want to do anything. Like this client, I don't want to do anything. I'm still living in this place. I don't want to get attacked by officers again. All these different scenarios, folks, pop up. And they pop up for all criminal defense attorneys. And I'm sure every attorney, male, female, they deal with it in a different way. Prosecutors, they hear victim stories. They hear about the domestic violence. They hear about the corruption. They hear about these things, and then victims change their minds, or victims change their stories, right? But they have different perspectives. We're all human, but it's based on experience. Like I was talking about the young man that grew up in Haiti and then lives in a really tough neighborhood in Palm Beach where he's seen shootings and stabbings and mutilations. We're a product of our experiences. And in order to, as I was talking about race relations, we have to open our eyes to what each group deals with. And it's hard to do that, right? As a white man, can I jump in the shoes of a Hispanic man? No. Can I jump in the shoes of a black man? No. But I can listen and I can understand. And, vice versa, right? Not every, white person is privileged. A lot of us have grown up in poverty. I'm one of them. There's no privilege in my neighborhood. I dare someone to say something different that's known me my whole life. We have to understand each other, but we also have to be cognizant to not fall into a trap of, and I was talking to my dad about this today. He said that Teddy Roosevelt gave a speech, and it was in New York very long ago, before I was born. And Teddy Roosevelt said, it's my dad, so I don't have, I'm going to pull up the audio and listen to it, or the speech and read it. He said, Teddy Roosevelt said, be careful of the person that goes to a group and says, yeah, everything you said is right. Everything you said is right. Now follow me. Let's take over, because that person wants to be the leader. Be careful of that person that just joins the group and says you're right about everything and wants to lead you, because they have ulterior motives. And listen, when I see, I'm just going to say it. When I see a lot of black leaders, not all, but a lot of black leaders are supposedly leaders. They're not leaders. I listen to them say things that I just go, what? That's not an objective thought. I can't, and it's the same thing with politics. And this is what I said to my dad. If you're a Democrat, you're a Democrat. If you're a Republican, you're a Republican. And I get it, it's different sides, and I don't care what you are, and I'm not telling you what I am or what I think. But what I find is, if a Republican hears something that another Republican said, they automatically agree. If a Democrat hears something that a Democrat said, they automatically agree. Shouldn't there be some independent examination, evaluation about the facts before you blindly agree? Can you blindly agree with a race issue, a religious issue, without knowing all the facts? I mean, can you imagine if everyone that was arrested was found guilty? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine it's like someone makes an accusation, it's automatically like, ladies and gentlemen, like, you guys are subscribers to my channel. Can you imagine for a moment, and I'm sure I'm going to get some, if anyone ever watches the ridiculously long video that I'm making as I'm driving home, but can you imagine you're sitting home, you're watching TV, you just had dinner, you're petting the dog, you're talking to the wife, the kids, and the police knock on the door, and next thing you know, they open the door, and you don't open it quick enough, and all of a sudden they bulldoze in, and there's 12 officers, and they have, machine gun, not a machine gun, but like, the military, like they have an AR-15, and they have handguns drawn, and they throw you to the ground, and someone has made an accusation that you were going to do something, harm yourself, I don't know, blow up a city, murder someone, whatever. Because testimony, folks, can get you arrested. Testimony. And then you get arrested, and there is no criminal defense attorney. There is no Roger P. Foley. And I'm not putting myself, there's no criminal defense attorney, right? There's no voice for you. It's, you've been accused, you're guilty. Can you imagine that? Like, the art of cross-examination brings us to the truth, right? I always talk about this, and I'm not knocking police, but police are writing a report, and I had this at least recently on my YouTube channel where people were, a lot of people show love, and, there's people that show hate. They're like, oh, you're a terrible representative, and okay, everyone's got an opinion. Hey, let's have a podcast, and you come on, we can discuss it. I won't be rude. I'll be courteous and just make my arguments. But can you imagine no defense? It's someone's made an accusation, and it's, you read that police report, and I've seen, I'm going to say, a handful of police reports in my life, right, in my 20 years of experience, that have given me some hope. Most of the time, they're written by the elements of the crime. There's probable cause for the arrest. They're very conclusionary. The person did this. How do they know? They didn't see it, right? As opposed to there's probable cause to believe that this occurred, because probable cause is a low standard. What if we didn't have a system like of checks and balances? What if we didn't have depositions and motions to suppress and stand your ground? Everyone's not guilty. A lot of people are guilty. I get it. A lot of people are guilty. And I'm not saying all my clients are innocent. But what if we had that? What if they came to your house? Cops aren't your friend. Defense attorneys aren't your friend. Well, sometimes they become friends. I've had friends that were police officers. Not so much anymore. A couple of parties when they said, they made the jokes about, I forget some of the jokes that they would say, like, I would call a friend and he's like, hey, counselor, I can't take the call right now. We're maliciously, beating an African American and violating their rights right now, or hey, counselor, can I call you back in 5 minutes? I'm planting evidence. And I get it, it's sarcastic, but I don't even like that. I don't like that. And that person and I don't speak anymore. And they were friends. I've met police officers that are ethical, and I know that people think, because people said on my channel like this week, oh, all defense attorneys hate cops. No, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate. I am cautious. I am careful. I try to read between the lines. I cross-examine. I don't trust blindly. Like, no Republican, no Democrat, no white person, no black person, no Hispanic person, no Asian person should follow blindly based on whatever that agenda is, whether it's race or religion or sexuality preference, or right. You shouldn't believe because of that. That's my opinion. I can't imagine people disagreeing with it, but they do, which is like stunning to me. How do you not know the facts and go, he was just arrested because, he's Hispanic? I mean, I get those calls. And I'm like, I don't think he was arrested because he was Hispanic, man. Really? They only arrested him because, and I'm going, I don't believe that. Now, could I find evidence that he was arrested for that? Of course. But just giving me a conclusionary statement, I need proof, right? Just like the state's got to prove that my client's guilty, right? Or I got to prove in a personal injury case that my client was injured and it was the negligence of another. I have to prove that, right? I don't just go, hey, my client slipped and fell at the restaurant and I want $500,000 because he threw out his back and he had to have surgery. I can say what I want, but I got to back it up with something, right? So just telling me, I was beaten, right? Like the one gentleman said I was beaten, and he was like, I don't know. Like, he didn't say it was because he was black, but he told me that it was, white and Latin officers. He didn't see a black officer and he got beaten. But we proved that, right? We found an investigator. The other gentleman that said, hey, I got beaten because I was black, and they were black and white and Hispanic officers. Well, we learned, because I didn't prove anything, I learned that was all horseshit because I got all the videos. And I called my client and I go, what the hell are you thinking? Like, you told me all this stuff. Like look at the video. And even watching the video with me, the client was kind of like, it wasn't me. like that song, right? It wasn't me. I just see all of these issues, and I don't know. Listen, I'm talking because I'm driving. I started to go live, but I was like, who knows if I'll ever share this, but I probably will, because I got a lot of videos that I've never even shared. I just talk and drive. I got over, and I should have got over. Those are some of the issues that, I don't know, I guess that attorneys are dealing with. It's not just me. It's not just Roger P. Foley, right? I'm no one different. We all experience problems, whether you're an attorney, whether you're a janitor, right? I clean up people's crap, so I consider myself a janitor. No knock on that profession. Like, you are helping, you are cleaning, you are, whatever you do in life, do it to the best of your ability. And critique yourself. That's, I had a client this evening that called me with some new evidence. And the new evidence may be very helpful. And he was telling me a story, and I said, what is that? What's that word? What's that term? And he said it, and I was like, I don't know. And Then I said, I'm just a dumb lawyer. I don't know. I don't have that big vocabulary. I don't. And then he goes, Mr. Foley, if you were a dumb lawyer, you wouldn't be my lawyer. It was, it's just nice. Like the guy's a very respectful guy. He's like, and he goes, but I appreciate you, humbling yourself but I really didn't know what the hell the guy was talking about. I was like, wait, explain that to me. What does that mean? How does that work? It was a word. It was a procedure. It had to do with something in the corporate world, and I didn't know what it meant. And I said, can you explain that to me? And he did. And I went, I didn't know that. But I think that the key for me, and some people may say I critique myself too much, but I do. I always think that I can do better. I always there's a little bit more. It's like running a 40 time, and I got down pretty good in college. I was a legit 4.4. I mean, a legit 4.4. That's not a lot of 6 foot 4 running backs that could run a legit 4.4. I was probably too skinny at 210, but I could run it. But I didn't have hands that could be a receiver, just so you know. So anyway, but I always wanted to go I raced a guy in high school that ran a 4.29, like a legit 4.29. I mean, you don't hear about a lot of guys that run a 4.29. And I could pass the finish line with him, touching him. When I got to Alabama, there was a guy named Chris Anderson, fellow running back. He ran a 4.31. Literally, I'm right there, he is like a head length, like he leaned his head, and he beat me, and I couldn't beat him, and I tried. And guys like George Teague, that went to the NFL, and a hell of a player, hell of a good guy in college, lost touch with those guys, but just very nice, humble young men that had a lot of talent that I was fortunate to be around. And I was always trying to win that race, to be a little bit faster. I'm going, George would say, Raj, I've never run faster than a 4.7. I'm like, how was that, brother? Like, I just raced you, coach just timed me at a 4.52, and I can't beat you. Like, how was that? That kind of thing. And just so you know, guys, times change. I could literally run a 4.4 and then turn around and run a 4.6 on the second pass. Like, it's not always consistent. Like, it's your start, it's your steps, it's are you looking down at the ground for the first 10 yards and trying to get to a spot. Like, there's a bunch of factors. So anyway, it's all about improvement. I'm just using that as an example. And a fellow attorney called me last week, and he says, hey, I know you have a lot of motions, and you're in the courtroom a lot. I got an evidence question, and he asked me, I was like, oh shit, I don't have my evidence book. And he asked me, and I was like, well, I would argue this, and I literally went through like seven different arguments with him, 7 different objections. It was irrelevance. It was now my brain's not worth thinking about evidence right now. But it was a hearsay objection. It was a what's the word? I'm having a brain fart, guys. But anyway, I started listening to 7 objections, and I said, I don't have my evidence book is at the house. And because I didn't hit, I literally started to Google real quick and go through my objections. I probably had 5, but there were 2 that didn't come to my head right away. I was like, shit. And I was like, I always have that evidence book right in front of me so I can go through, 77 objections and practice them. And I always break out my evidence book before a motion to suppress or a trial. I'm not all-knowing. I'm not perfect. I'm flawed. I'm a human. I'm flawed. I make mistakes. One day I could run a 4.39, probably the best ever, if it was legitimate, it was, clock, but it's not like the NFL that does it now with the cameras and all that, right? So And then there's a day that I run a 4.65. I don't know. What do I say I run? Well, I always go with the 4.4 because that's what I could run. But you have different days of ability, right? There's days like today. I've been sad. A prosecutor called me on a very serious case that I had, and I started to tear up. I said, I need you to look at these things, but I can't really talk to you right now. And I said, I had a friend that passed away today, and I'm talking to my dad, and I'm not there. I'm not 100% me. I'm not 4.4 me. I'm not 365 bench me, right? I'm not 405, squats for reps. I'm 60% of me. Maybe I'm 100% of emotional me. 100% of softy me, right? I'm 100% of, in touch with my, my wimpy side, but I'm not 100% for my client today. So, and I started to tear up, and she instantly recognized it and said, hey, listen, I'm about to step out. I'm going to be on vacation for a week. Let's talk after that. And I said, thank you. And that was it. We're not always on our best days. Clients aren't always on their best days. Everyone's not always their best day, right? Are you always at your best? You're not. So recognize, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just talking. I'm talking from the heart. I'm not mentally invested as I make this video. I'm emotionally invested. I'm just talking about things that I encounter that make me think, and quite frankly, they're off the cuff. They're what I'm thinking about this evening, on a drive home. And I don't know who will watch this. I don't know. There used to be a guy on my YouTube channel. I don't see comments from him anymore, so maybe he got rid of me or quit watching, or I don't know. But he's like, videos need to be 2 minutes or something like that. Minute videos, 2-minute videos, less than 3-minute videos. I'm like, so I made a comment. I go, well, watch 3 minutes a day if that's what your attention span can handle, right? I can't help it. I'm long-winded, Could I get a video editor and chop the shit out of this and make it perfect? And sure. And you know what? If I ever get a TV show, right? If I'm ever the guy that, is fighting the legal battles and go all over the country doing this, and guess what? The studio will edit everything. If I ever get blessed with a TV show doing legal analysis and whatever, not just be a guest, but have my own spot, they can edit it. They can make it exactly what you want. They can take out the ums and the ahs and the misstatements of, you can lead a horse to drink, and I get it. Lead a horse to water, but you can't. I messed up. Funny thing is, this attorney from Broward, he's a nice guy, but he can be an arrogant, guy. He years ago he challenged me. He's like, I thought you said you haven't lost the motion, and blah blah. And I go, and he goes and pulls a motion that I lost, right? And in my mind, I'm going, what the hell, did I lose that motion? I'm going, am I losing my mind? So I go home and I look it up, and I'm like, yeah, I did lose that motion. But then I filed a motion for the judge to re-review. Basically, before I appeal your ass, judge, I think you made a mistake and I'd like you to reconsider. And then the judge said, upon reconsideration, I'm reversing, I'm vacating my prior decision, and Foley's right. So I brought that shit to the courthouse, and I said, I saw the guy, and I was like, yeah, man, I didn't lose that motion. I threw that shit down and walked away. I get it. The world's going to call you out, and that's a good thing, right? Because it makes you stay on top of your game. But I'm not going to exaggerate a win, and I'm not going to avoid talking about a loss. I've won cases. I've lost cases. I've lost cases that I should have won. And I've won cases that I should have lost. If I said that right, you get the point. But you know, it's funny that the keyboard warriors, the people that just want to challenge everything. Like, I'm human. I never said, there's nothing on this channel that says, you know, I'm God, I'm Jesus. There's videos that talk about my belief, that I believe in God, that I pray to God. There's videos that say I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not good enough. I mean, in every which way. But I pray on my cases, and I ask God for guidance, and I make mistakes, and I sin, and I'm an imperfect creature doing the best that he can and finding roadmaps that other people have used and looking at them and going, do I want to take that road that that guy said? Do I want to follow that guy? No, I don't. I don't want to follow. I don't want to be anyone's shadow. I want to be me, and I want to learn from people that I admire, people that I respect. I want to learn from people that I think have gotten it wrong. But there's no clear path. My path is my path. Your path and your journey is your journey. But I do think that when people converse, if you were sitting in the car with me, my pickup truck as I'm driving, I always think about the guy who said, you drive a pickup truck, I would never hire an attorney that drove a pickup truck. And I'm going, yep, that's the guy that needs me the most, that has that friggin' logic. Because he has no logic. What does what I drive have to do with my abilities? I mean, do you guys, like, the guy really think that, like, I mean, do I have to drive my Viper all the time? Do I have to have the Lamborghini out? Like, come on, brother. Like, flash, what's that word? All flash and no substance. There's a lot of guys out there. A lot of guys. I know a lot of attorneys that have Ferraris and Lambos and some pimped out cars. And that means they're making money. But does making money equate to doing right by your client? There's a lot of haters of lawyers, and they're like, hell no, they're just robbing us, right? I get those, right? And there's some truth to that. There's some that do. And how many are just doing right? How many are busting their ass? How many people are taking their CLE courses, taking trial courses, reviewing their evidence book, practicing, talking to other attorneys, being humble when they don't know something, and asking other attorneys? How many people are consulting with other attorneys and sharing a fee to get the answer for the client, right? The client's number one. Like, that's how we're, right? Personal injury, criminal defense. My two practice areas, you know, I do some contract stuff. I don't even advertise it, but the people who know me know I do it. So you got to learn, man. It's got to be there's a learning curve. It doesn't matter if you're a teenager. You obviously got a lot to learn in your 20s, 30s. You could be in your 80s. You could still learn. My dad, Arthur James Foley, AJ, Mr. Foley, my entire life since I was adopted, he read 6 to 7 books every week. My dad's almost 80 years old. He's still reading books. As I was at the house, he was reading a book on the Civil War. He's probably read a bunch of books on the Civil War, but he was reading about it. It's never too late to learn. It's never too late to be humble. It's never too late to apologize. It's never too late to start doing the right thing. And for all those people who hate on convicted felons and people that were convicted of DUI, listen, A lot of people are convicted. A lot of people are overcharged. A lot of people have weak representation. Every attorney thinks he's great, but we're all not great. I don't think I'm great, but I think I'm hard working. I think I'm passionate. And I have an investigative mind. But I don't think I'm great. I don't think that I'm smarter than my clients. I may have more knowledge in my work than they do, but I don't know how to fix the car. I don't know how to put the air conditioning together. I can't put a puzzle together. I can't, my mind doesn't go that way. I have no sense of direction. I can't remember half the people's names. I represent you. I'll know your story forever. Shit. I gotta be in trial or emotion with you and talk to you all day to keep the name in my brain, because I see X's and Y's. I see letters instead of names. And your name can be James, and I'll be like B. Like, it's the weirdest thing. My mind doesn't do names and directions. Everyone has something to bring to the table, and it could be the simplest thing. It could be a tender ear, listening to somebody, being that, that ear to listen. It could be that guy who's fixes everything. It could be that girl, or woman that cooks the perfect lasagna, or the perfect Mediterranean, or the perfect Indian, or the perfect Asian dish. I'm getting hungry as I talk. We all have the woman that does the arts and crafts, right? The person who can put a photo array together, the person who can organize a ledger, an accounting. There's so many things, right? The person that can sing, the person that can write. We all have it, folks. Find it in one another. Find it in yourself. Be humble about it. And try to find it in others. And be caring and understanding. Because your days are numbered. You've heard this before. All of our days are numbered. Right? Don't be in a rush to go from a white belt to a black belt, to become the leader of the industry, to become the billionaire. More money, more problems, right? You get to the final destination. What's the final destination of life? It's death, right? How quick is anyone watching this, listening to this, rushing to die? Not a lot of us, right? So, I don't know. I don't know what my video means. Like I said, I'm in a sappy mood. I'm not necessarily talking about the law. I'm talking about random things, and I hope that I touch somebody. I hope that your mind is touched and you think about what I've said. Maybe you comment. Maybe you expand on it. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you, I don't know, call me a name. But it's good to check out the responses. Like I said, I don't really watch my own videos, but I do read the responses. Sometimes I can't keep up because there's a lot of them, and there's only so much time in a day. But randomly, I'll go on and I'll read like 50 of them in a row. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Hey, cool, And sometimes I miss them and I don't catch them for a couple months. So anyway, my name is Roger P. Foley. I'm your neighbor, I'm your friend, I'm your big brother, I'm your uncle, I'm your pops, I'm your granddad. I'm not that old, but maybe I could be. I'm the imperfect creature that practices personal injury and criminal defense. And I care about my clients. I'm not a multimillionaire or a billionaire. I think I earn my fees. I break it down. If I can't win, and I'll tell you that. And I can usually tell you that before you hired me during my consultation. But sometimes you win the cases that you don't think you can win, and sometimes you can lose the cases you think you win. But I just give it to you, man. It's straight. It's no bullshit. It's who I am. I'll laugh with you. I'll cry with you. I'll yell at you. I'll pray with you. I'll pat you on the back. I'll shake your hand. I'll hug you. And I'll always, always wish you well. I'm Roger P. Have a good one. Good night. Subscribe. See ya.